So, Jeremy,
Yes, Gage.
I've been reading comics recently.
Ooh, that can be entertaining.
Fun fact, fun fact. And I've come to realize something.
Hmm.
Nobody really likes to write Scarecrow well.
Hmm.
So, I got this like collection of like iconic Scarecrow comics, right? Because he's like my favorite Batman villain. Like I'm wearing his costume in the thumbnail for this video or for the YouTube upload as we speak. So like like my love for this character is legit.
I like him too. All of the incarnations I've experienced, anyway.
Yeah, I mean like he was outside of maybe his first appearance and a couple cameos in episodes of Batman the Animated Series, he's otherwise really good in that series. Like, he has a couple of, like, the best episodes in the new Batman Adventures. So I'm reading this comic, which is supposed to have all these iconic Scarecrow stories, and in each one of them, he's kind of a bitch.
Like, doesn't have that much of a commanding presence.
No, everybody seems to focus on the fact that he's like this lanky ass nerd who got beat up in school. And it's just like, I mean, I get that that's part of his background, but it's like they focus on it so much that it just ends up defining the character for me. Like, this is a guy who's supposed to be the master of fear, and I'm not scared of him. And it comes to a head in one of the stories. I want to say it was from like the 90s.
Ah, glorious times.
Oh yeah, where they show the development of his fighting style, which he calls violent dancing.
When I think Scarecrow, and when I've seen Scarecrow, I've thought that was kind of the point, is that he was kind of a lanky nerd, but he used his intelligence to develop, a weapon, the fear gas, that would let him not have to fight.
Right, more like a cerebral villain.
Yeah,
right?
like he, almost like a Freddy Krueger, like he'll convince you to kill yourself in your hallucinations.
Yes, so you ever see those videos of like the raver kids hanging out under an underpass?
Oh no.
And like people like to replace the music in those videos with like Cotton Eye Joe or something?
The neo-goth dancers?
Yeah. Imagine that, but it's a fighting style. And that's what violent dancing is. It's the dumbest shit in the world.
Wow.
And, like, it was almost worse in, like, his earlier appearances, because he didn't develop the fear gas until, I want to say, like, his second or third appearance. And his big thing was, he would scare the shit out of, like, these fucking, like, businessmen, and he'd leave straw at the scene.
No.
That was his calling card. I'm just sitting there like, that's the dumbest calling card in the world.
I mean, no. Like I said, Freddy Krueger is scary looking. Like, Jason is scary looking. If you show up, and like, Halloween 3 is like one of my favorite movies, but no, you show up in like a Scarecrow, like, outfit, I'm not gonna be scared. Unless you dosed me with some kind of hallucinogenic fear gas.
There you go. And it's not great because nobody gave him a good costume in that collection that I was reading, except for the one that was like really stylized, like it looked like it was like Bruce Timm drawings.
Ah.
And then don't even get me started on how shitty the new 52 version looks like.
Oh, is it somehow worse than the super creepy skinny looking one?
Yeah, it's worse. He just looks like a dude with a burlap sack on his head.
No, that was kind of in Batman Begins, but at least that served like a purpose.
Okay, so in that, he was a dude in a suit with a burlap sack on his head. In this, he's a dude in his pajamas with a burlap sack on his head.
Gage, comics are dumb.
Comics are dumb. So hello and welcome to Live from Blüdhaven, the show that is neither live nor from Blüdhaven. My name is Gage.
I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you like anime?
Anime is for jerks. But yes, I do.
Yeah, who doesn't love a good Japanese cartoon? I love Japanese cartoons. I recently watched a bunch of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it was
Ooh,
great.
that's a good one.
Yeah, you know what people in like the early to mid aughts really liked? And even beyond?
The Matrix?
Yeah, people loved The Matrix. You know what else people liked? People liked the Animatrix. People liked the Animatrix so much that they copied that idea at least 5 times.
To varying degrees of success.
Yeah, so off the top of my head, the ones that I can name, Halo Legends, I really liked.
I think I watched that once. Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty fun.
Dead Space Aftermath.
Okay, so we're counting those.
Yeah, it's not Japanese cartoons. They're more Korean studios, but like
Yeah.
I like some of the animation in that.
Still, it's the same. In fact, I recently watched, what's the other Dead Space one? Downfall?
Yeah.
The prequel. I watched that again because I had a funny commentary to watch with it. And it's...
Oh, was it Bob Vids?
Yes.
Oh man, I loved that one.
It's really good. They're very good. I don't mind
They are.
shamelessly plugging them. And that's, I mean, I like the concept. It's interesting of doing like I think the official term is a transmedia tie-in.
Oh yeah. Dead Space was huge on those.
Oh yeah. Dead Space, Dante's Inferno, if I recall correctly.
Yep, Dante's Inferno, an animated epic.
Another fine Electronic Arts production.
Yeah. That one had, if I remember correctly, it had Korean, Japanese, and I think a couple American studios working on it. I believe Film Roman did the opening for that, and then the people that did the animated Tales of the Black Freighter for Watchmen did a segment.
Oh yeah, which that like I remember liking that because like the Watchmen movie, it's pretty accurate to a fault to the original book. But it looks nice.
Now, there was another one of those that came out just in the lead up to the big movie premiere of 2008, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, the second in his Dark Knight trilogy.
Oscar-winning Dark Knight.
Yep, rest in peace, Heath Ledger.
Mm.
And that anthology film, I believe is the term for it, was called Batman Gotham Knight, and it is included in the DC Universe animated original movie brand, despite the fact that, for all intents and purposes, it is a tie-in to the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
This is the thing about this one, and if it's not obvious, that's what we're watching today, is Batman Gotham Knight. This is the thing about this. You could watch this as part of the Dark Knight trilogy, and it would work. It would work just fine. You could also skip it entirely, and you wouldn't really miss anything.
Yeah. I think I've only seen this all the way through once, but I think you could also just watch this on its own fine. Like with just tangential knowledge of the Nolan movies.
Yeah, if you've seen the first one at least, you're okay.
Yeah.
And like, even if you haven't seen the first one at least, if you know like Batman lore for the most part, like there's a couple things that sort of tie into the first movie, like Gordon's still a lieutenant. They mention the Night in the Narrows and how Scarecrow hasn't been picked up yet. The various other things. There's characters from the second movie in there, the Russian, Sal Maroni, so on and so forth. You remember the Russian? He's the one that got eaten by dogs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was just... I can't remember. I was just thinking of... Oh, I think my dad was watching John Wick, and everybody's like super villain Russian. But then I remembered that guy from Dark Knight who goes, "My dogs are hungry."
I love that guy.
It's pretty
He gets
good.
owned so hard.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. So let's take a look at this movie real quick. This movie has, because it's an anthology film and each segment is a different segment, it has a few directors for it. Part 1 is directed by Shojiro Nishimi. I'm gonna butcher a couple of these, I'm sure. Like, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm gonna mess up like the emphasize which syllables I'm emphasizing.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. Was that the do we want to do the names and the animation studios that worked on them too?
Do you have a list of the animation studios pulled up?
Yeah, the first one is entitled Have I Got a Story for You? Is that the one written by Josh Olson?
Yes.
And that was animated by Studio 4C.
All right. Part 2 is directed by Futoshi Higashide.
It's written by Greg Rucka, who I think is a pretty prolific comic book writer.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I took a glance, and he's just done tons of stuff over the years. Lots of DC Batman. That was animated by Production IG, which I'm sure lots of people know.
They did the Ghost in the Shell anime. Standalone Complex, didn't they?
I think they also worked on, to tie it back to Cartoon Network, AOL Time Warner, they did IGPX.
IGP. I remember that.
That show's bitchin'. It holds
I
up.
remember that aired once, and I never saw it again.
Yep, I think it was one of those, they had they had a pilot, and then they had a test, 3 episodes that had a totally different animation studio cast, and then, I'm not fact-checking this, so don't at me, and then they got greenlit, a second season, ages later. And Haley Joel Osment played the lead, and it was almost like a Kingdom Hearts thing, boy grew up in between seasons.
Oof.
But yeah, I remember that show being pretty cool.
Part 3, directed by Hiroshi Morioka.
It was written by Jordan Goldberg and animated by B-Train, who used to be connected to Production IG. They also worked on IGPX and a couple other things people might know, like the Dot Hack animes in the early aughts.
Part 4, directed by Yasuhiro Aoki.
Oh yeah, and that's the one written by David S. Goyer. He was a co-writer on the Nolan trilogy, and he's done a bunch of stuff. He did some of the Blade movies, and he's kind of the the definition of a hit and miss guy.
I do like the Blade movies.
Oh yeah, I think he wrote the first one, and I think he wrote and directed the third one.
Oh man, he really is hit and miss.
Yeah. Because,
Doofa.
my favorite that I could remember is definitely 2, which was Del Toro's. And
oh yeah.
Hell yeah. This one was animated by Madhouse, which,
Oh, I love Madhouse!
yeah, a list as long as my arm. The original Death Note, One Punch Man, Season 1, and it's a ton of stuff.
Okay, we can't pass over Madhouse without mentioning fucking Redline.
Oh yeah, man, I forgot they did Redline. Ooh.
They super did Redline. They were also featured in the Animatrix.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of these were.
Yeah, we probably have some overlaps because it is, still Warner Brothers for each of them.
Yeah, I was trying to check if Redline is still free on YouTube, because I know they uploaded it a couple of years ago. But anyway, yeah, definitely check out Redline. Redline is, it joined Cowboy Bebop in my library as something I would show someone who doesn't watch anime. My dad watched Redline and liked it.
There is a single instance of anime titties.
Oh yeah. And even then, it's just
just the one.
It's I watch TV topless sometimes too.
Okay, part 5 is directed by Toshiyuki Kuboka.
Yeah, this one was written by Brian Azzarello, which I don't know what else he does, and this one was also Studio 4C.
And finally, part 6, directed by Jong-sik Nam.
Yeah, I think this one's called Deadshot. It was written by Alan Burnett, and again, animated by Madhouse.
But you can't guess who the bad guy in that one is.
The Penguin. Maybe.
Man, I wish they had done the Penguin in the Nolan movies. That would have been nuts.
Yeah, I kind of liked I guess it was kind of a compromise when he showed up in the Arkham games, and he was kind of super edgy, oh, he doesn't wear a monocle, it's a glass bottle that someone punched into his face.
I think it was specifically the Joker who had done that.
Oh, okay, I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, but we'll get into the Arkham games further down the line when we do the Arkham movie.
Yeah.
So that's basic rundown of the directors and the studios who worked on this. We have our first instance of a Batman movie starring Kevin Conroy.
Yes, the legend. I always try not to be a purist fanboy, but Kevin Conroy is my number one Batman.
Oh yeah, there have been plenty of perfectly serviceable Batmans since then. In fact, I would even say plenty of really good Batmans. I know the actor voicing Batman in the sort of new 52-ish movies.
Yeah, the guy, wasn't he just in, what is it, Family Trouble, that newer one?
I'm not sure. The only thing I know about him is that his name is Jason O'Mara, and he played Albert Wesker in the third Resident Evil movie.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, he sounds good. I'm sure I've said it before, like, Kevin Conroy nails, I think, my favorite things about Batman, which is that he is intimidating without sounding ridiculous, and that Bruce Wayne and Batman are two completely different people. Like, I remember I rewatched some earlier episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and there is such a strong divide of a line between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like, I had to check to make sure there wasn't some like weird recasting I'd never thought of.
Yeah, that was always one of my favorite things. They dropped that when they got to New Batman Adventures.
Yeah, and it became kind of as Bruce got more cynical and less subtle.
Yeah, they do that in this movie too, especially in God, what is it? I want to say the segment's called Field Test. The one where he basically looks like Light Yagami.
Oh, yeah.
So we've also got some other somewhat familiar faces, I guess, in this. Gary Dourdan, I think is how his name is pronounced. He was on CSI. He was Warwick Brown.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's got a part in this. George Newbern, I know, is in this. Unfortunately, not as Superman, because Superman doesn't exist in the Nolan movies.
Probably at this point, thankfully.
Yeah, and there's a few other people whose names I kind of recognize. Kevin Michael Richardson, Rob Paulson.
Jason Marsden, Scott Menville. I think Will Friedle, Batman Beyond, is in there as a random character.
Yeah, there's a few notable voice actors.
I think this was also voice directed. I didn't see it listed, but I'm going to assume this was also voice directed by Andrea Romano.
Oh, in all likelihood, she was all over these movies. I'm sure we'll see that as soon as we start it up. So.
Oh yeah.
Now, as we discussed, this isn't exactly adapted from anything, though I do know that the first segment shares some similarities with other, because the first segment is all about a bunch of kids telling stories about what they think Batman is like, which had a very similar episode in the New Batman Adventures, which sort of adapted both, like, I want to say a Silver Age story as well as the Dark Knight Returns.
I remember that. I think that's also the only version of Dark Knight Returns I like.
Well, wait until we watch the animated movie.
True, I have not seen that.
Basically, somewhat the same, and also RoboCop is Batman.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit of it. I can't say it's really good. It reminded me of when he showed up in the Star Trek reboot. It's like, hey, is that? Oh, okay. Oh, he's dead. Okay. At least it wasn't as random as when Tyler Perry showed up in that movie.
Tyler Perry? When was what?
He was in the first Star Wars reboot, the 2009 one. He is the
You mean Star Trek?
Oh, did I say Star Wars?
You did say Star Wars.
Oh shit. No, Star Trek. The Star Trek reboots. Yeah, he's like the dean of the academy that Kirk graduates from.
That he cheats at?
Yeah, he's like, that's Tyler Perry. Okay, yeah, sure.
Huh. Okay.
Those movies are weird.
There's probably a lot of people who are Star Trek fans.
Yeah, I mean,
that
it
we
probably
just don't know.
It probably was just like, I like Star Trek. Can I be the Thing? Okay, sure.
I mean, it's like, to tie it all back, it's like in the Dark Knight trilogy, there's that one senator who's a huge Batman fan, and they gave him several roles.
Yeah, I think he was in a couple of the older Batman movies too.
Oh man, I bet. He has a much more prominent role in Rises than anything.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you see him because he's the only one who can't act.
Yeah.
No,
boy.
I mean, I don't know what his politics are, so otherwise, no offense to him, but like,
yeah.
Oh boy, it's pretty obvious.
Speaking of politics, that's a whole other episode, but Dark Knight Rises sure is interesting, a few years removed after it came out.
A few years removed from after it came out, and also attached to the time we're living in now, because Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's not worry about that right now, because I'm not about to turn this into a political talk show.
No, although I would side with Bane at this point in my life.
Oh. You know, outside of the whole nuking a major American city thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. That's pretty bad.
What we remember about the movie, I remember lots of really good animation. I remember some of the animation being like looking at it and being like, this is a little weird. Batman looks a little portly.
Yeah, I remember being very excited for this because, one, I watched the Animatrix like 100 times on the VHS that I have of it. And this was, not directly related, but like the same kind of thing. And I recognized that Kevin Conroy was in it, so I also got super excited.
I remember there's definitely segments of this I like more than others. Field Test, Deadshot, the one where he is
playing golf. Man. I know there's one where he plays golf.
That's Field Test.
Okay.
He plays golf in Field Test. And one thing that you really have to pay attention for, because this is something that it took a couple of viewings for me to really recognize it. There is a story thread going all throughout this movie. And if you just watch it one time really quick, you wouldn't really notice, but you can sort of see story beats from short to short to short. The first two are pretty contained because they focus a lot on the man in black, the super technological villain played by George Newbern or whatever. And then from there it's we get into the stuff with Sal Maroni and the Russian. We get into stuff with this senator who's buying up all of this land and gentrifying it and stuff like that. Not senator, some other councilman or whatever. I don't remember.
I seem to remember that now, that there is something that links all of the stories together.
The first two are pretty much solidly linked. Field Test is kind of an anomaly where the plot stuff that's revealed in that doesn't really come back into play until the last segment, but then the third or the fourth, fifth, and sixth segments are bam, 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 one right after the other. So yeah, that's basic rundown of that. That's more or less what I remember about the movie. You got anything?
That's pretty much, I remember, I think I've only seen it all the way through once, so I remember, the feeling of liking the stories, but I do not remember a lot of beats at all. So I'm looking forward to rewatching it.
All right, well, that's just what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and go watch Batman Gotham Knight, and we will be back in just a bit.
Because Wacko makes the entire line of Riddler games and puzzles, like the Riddler's Riddle Mid. Hours of fun for only $19.95.
Okay, and we are back, fresh off a conversation about Archie Sonic and Bunny Rabbit.
And feet.
Totally unrelated to the movie that we were watching. But yeah, we just finished watching Batman Gotham Knight, and let's go into just sort of immediate reactions. Jeremy, what'd you think?
It still held up pretty good. It looks great, that's for sure. I remember this was one of the first movies I really wanted on Blu-ray, because I think we'd had a Blu-ray player for a couple of years, and it looks really good.
Yeah, I think I still don't have this one on Blu-ray. I think I just have this one on DVD, but since I have it digitally and that's HD anyway, it's whatever.
Yeah, but all of the animation holds up really well. It's even the different styles, it's all very crisp. And definitely is a feast for the eyes.
Yeah, I've seen versions of this idea of the anthology film where you've got the different styles, but the animation isn't necessarily great. The one that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head is probably Dead Space Aftermath.
Ooh, man, yeah, those are pretty rough.
Yeah, I like a lot of the style in those ones. There's one of the Korean studios that did work on Dead Space Aftermath and Dante's Inferno. Probably has my favorite style out of all of those. And I was really happy to find out that their version of Dante was the one they used for the animated Dante skin in the video game.
That's cool.
Speaking of which, similar thing here where it's part 3 Field Test.
Yeah.
That has a sort of really kind of stylistic Batman outfit that was actually used as the quote-unquote anime Batman skin in Batman Arkham Knight.
Was it Arkham Knight or Arkham City?
It was Arkham Knight.
Oh, okay.
They hadn't released... God, when did Arkham City come out?
I thought it was 2011?
I think so. Something came out alongside Arkham City, as far as I know. But anyways, yeah, no, they hadn't really gotten the hang of alternate skins for Arkham City.
Yeah, they kind of all look kind of bad in that game.
I really like the Batman Beyond one.
That
one's
one
really
does
good.
look cool, especially what they do with like the cape.
Yeah, I do also like the Batman Beyond one in Arkham Knight, though.
Not to jump the gun, but yeah, the new suit in the field test short looks really cool until we realized it looks a lot like Femto from Berserk, and it kind of ruined it for me.
I still kind of like it because it's not Femto, it's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
It's Batman.
Bruce Wayne's a good boy. Griffin is not. He's bad.
Griffith should die.
Yeah.
He should die. I hate him.
Insert that gif of him getting punched in the face.
Just on loop. Get him, Guts.
Oh, it feels so good. So anyway, I guess we kind of, since it's kind of broken up, all of the stories like have connected parts. So I guess just kind of go story to story, huh?
Yeah, okay. So we'll start with the first one. The first one is kind of told in reverse to a certain degree. The concept of it is there's these 4 kids. 3 of them are late to meet up, and when they get there, they're all just like,
kids.
"Oh, you're not gonna believe the fuck I saw." I don't know why these kids are suddenly Richard Nixon, but go figure.
Yeah,
It's
I like.
Kids love the devil.
This
Kids love the Batman.
Leo Burnett and 4 kids are the devil. This one is probably the most like stylized because I think they're trying to convey like the kids' imagination. But yeah, I pointed out immediately that all these kids look like Jet Set Radio like NPCs. Like they're all skateboarding and they're all talking like whack yo, like Fresh Prince 90s slang yo. But in
Flurb.
Yeah, Flurb. And they're hanging around like an old skate park. They're in some kind of like abandoned warehouse, and there's cool graffiti.
There's graffiti
all over.
everywhere.
Yeah, but all these kids are like, what, like maybe 12 to 14?
I'd probably say they're probably teenagers.
Yeah, but they're all, they're all talking like a big talk, and they start, the subject comes up, they're like, yeah, I saw the Batman.
Yeah, and much like the similar Batman the Animated Series episode, which I guess I never know if I should call it Batman the Animated Series as a whole or if I should differentiate it between it and the new Batman adventures, but
yeah,
it's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Much like the similar episode from that series.
And it was based on a comic.
Yes, it was.
I see right here. Yeah, Batman 250 in the 70s did a very similar thing.
Yeah, and each kid has kind of a different idea of what they thought Batman was when they saw him, and also kind of a different idea of like the villain in that at the same time. The Man in Black. He's like a technological supervillain. He's got ray guns and a fucking jetpack.
Yeah,
which absolutely does not gel with the Nolan verse.
No, which is what this is supposed to be tangentially connected to.
Yeah. So each of these kids tells their story. The first kid does basically Vampire Batman, which, if I remember correctly, is a version of Batman from some story or some comic.
Yeah, Red Rain, I think.
That sounds about right. Where he's just kind of like morphing into like shadows, and he's just like, "Rah!" and
yeah, he's scary, but he's literally. They show him literally like melting into the shadows, like supernaturally.
It's like the character designs in this are super stylized. I wouldn't necessarily say I like them.
It's that kind of thing that everything is off model, but it's always moving, so it's not unpleasant to look at.
There was a point where I was looking at it just like, for some reason this reminds me of Professor Layton.
Yeah, because everyone kind of does have little beady eyes and very stylized. And near the end, the most human-looking version of Batman is very like a chubby Professor Layton.
He's wide.
Yes, he's like a fridge.
Yeah, but as much as I'm kind of iffy on like the character designs themselves, the way that the Vampire Batman moved was beautiful.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, so then he's talking about how like, oh, they fought, but the Man in Black got away, and this was all after they hopped out of the river or whatever. And then the next kid is just like, oh no, I know what Batman is. I saw the whole thing before you did. And she tells about all of the events leading up to them jumping into the river and ending up near the first kid. And in her version of the story, he's more like Man-Bat.
Oh yeah, like straight up, like he's Man-Bat.
Yeah. And he kills that guy.
Yeah, it ends with the girl telling the story says that Batman just swiped his head off with his claws, and then somebody
and the other kid immediately calls her on her bullshit.
Man, Batman don't kill nobody. And she says something like, I was trying to make it more dramatic.
I'm making it more colorful, yo.
Yeah, and then she says a bunch of, like, I guess Batman 60s sound effects, including flurb.
And she just mentions how it's like, oh, they fought all the way down to the river, and I guess I followed them there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to miss this. So then the last kid goes, and he's just like, nah, man, I saw him first, because I was up on this rooftop, just hanging out. And then suddenly this dude blew down the wall, and he's just like, oh, dude, give me all your jewelry. And I was just like, you can go ahead and shoot me, man, I ain't scared.
Yeah.
And all the kids call him out on his bullshit.
You didn't say that. Yeah, I did.
And in his version, Batman is a robot, and he's airdropped out of the sky.
Yeah, he is. It's a weird, like, Black Hawk helicopter thing.
Yeah, and in each of these, while each of their versions of Batman are fantastical, you can kind of see where Batman's, like, modus operandi would make them think one thing or the other, like, oh, this is probably where he, like, was gliding, or this is probably where he was using his grapple gun, or this is just where he was, doing his Batman thing.
Especially if you look at it through the eyes of, like, these little kids who, in reality, probably only saw, like, Batman for, like, 10 seconds.
Yeah, so then, of course, story has to come full circle. Batman and the Man in Black end up in the skate park, and, like, there's a smoke bomb goes off, and Batman's just like, oh, where'd it go? And he's, like, sneaking up on Batman. He's got a piece of glass, and then he gets fucking owned by this kid's skateboard.
Yeah, the tallest kid reveals that he knocked the dude out for Batman, and Batman, like, gives him a thumbs up.
Batman's just like, thanks, kid. Bye. And then he fucks off.
And we did look, because, again, animation very stylized, but Batman slings the Man in Black over his shoulder, and we couldn't tell if the Man in Black was, like, face on Batman's back. Like,
we couldn't
like
tell if we
style.
were looking at his butt or not.
Yeah, we couldn't tell if we were looking at his butt or not, because they drew him like a Sheriff Woody doll or something, with like a stuffed cotton ass and legs just dangling. It was really weird. Like, it was weird enough to where I was like, hey, is that his butt? So yeah, that's how that one ends. And then the kid, the smoke clears and the kid reunites with his friends, and he does a title drop. He says, man, have I got a story for you. Yep. So that one was pretty cute. It was a good one to open it up with. Like, looking back on these, like, this is probably the most lighthearted one, and it's, I wouldn't say it's the strongest visually, but it follows. The other ones follow it, look really good in comparison. So not bad, but yeah, not my favorite. It also doesn't help that, like, we have seen it before. Like, if you're a Batman fan, you either know of the comic or the Batman Adventures episode, but it had its own unique spin on it.
Yeah, so the next one starts off just kind of where this one leaves off, where Batman drops this dude off with Gordon, and at the same time, this one focuses mainly on a pair of detectives, Detective Allen and Detective Ramirez, and how Allen is just like, oh, I fucking hate the Batman.
Yeah, he doesn't like
Batman. It's
Batman.
terrible. Why am I doing, like...
I don't know.
I'm doing
just like your go-to
mixing voices for all these people. I don't get it.
I think Ramirez only calls this guy Detective Allen and Chris. But I did not realize
Detective Chris Allen.
Well, this cites it as his full name is Crispus, Crispus, which I wondered
Sounds
why.
about right.
Which I wondered why they spelled Chris without an H. Like, oh, because his name is Crispus. Which sounds like
a cereal.
Yeah, I was about to say some Whole Foods brand, like, hoity-toity cereal or something. But anyway, Ramirez is actually in The Dark Knight, isn't she?
She is. Ramirez is featured as a character in The Dark Knight. She is one of the detectives who is under the employ of Sal Maroni, but she's the one that Two-Face doesn't kill. She's also the basic breakdown of her character is she became a dirty cop for good reasons. She wanted to, be able to pay for her mother's hospital bills.
Yeah, but then they start blackmailing her.
Yeah, so when she's confronted by Two-Face, because it's Wirtz and Ramirez are the two cops.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Ramirez is the one that isn't killed by Two-Face. Wirtz is the one who gets fucking shot all to hell.
Yeah, and that's kind of the at the climax of the movie. That's the one of the things pointed out is the point of no return for Harvey Dent. Like he shot a fucking cop.
Yeah, pretty much. I really liked Two-Face in that movie. I don't think what's that actor's name?
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
I agree. I think it's really cool.
Because the thing is that Two-Face wasn't featured for very long in that movie.
No.
But God, he leaves just as much of an impression as the Joker in my mind.
It reminds me a lot of people who've listened to this know how much I love Batman Animated, but the Two-Face origin two-parter in that I feel like is a similar, you see build-ups of Big Bad Harv in Aaron Eckhart's portrayal of Harvey Dent. And so when it finally, explodes and he does the turn, it's not so much a surprise as, you're left with a sinking pit in your stomach of, oh, this is the worst this could have gone for him.
Yeah.
And he's just totally given himself over to it.
So the basic gist of this is they go to drop off the bad guy, they have their arguments about Batman, and then they get caught up in a shootout between Sal Maroni and the Russian, who are also both characters from The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And basically they get caught in this crossfire, and Batman shows up, he takes out all the Russians guys,
Yeah.
Sal Maroni takes Ramirez hostage.
This is after he saved Crispus.
Crispus.
He pulled him out of, he was in a car that was blowing up, and he pulled him to a rooftop, and he's, he kind of gives Batman a scowl, and Batman barely even takes a second look at him.
Yeah, and, he saves the day, and he's just like, yo, Gordon, he makes good choices for cops on his force. Bye!
Yeah, he asks him, he says, you're on Gordon's squad, and they're like, yeah? And he's like, Gordon's a good judge of character. Basically, I kind of took it as he was also saying, y'all seem like good cops, and also, look, I'm on the up and up. I don't give a shit what you think about me. Gordon likes me. There's not really anything you can do about it. Let's work together.
Mm-hmm.
This one looks really good. I remember the cinematography and the actual angles and all aren't super crazy, even during the firefight, but it looks really good.
Oh yeah. I think this was one of the Madhouse ones, wasn't it?
I think this one was Crossfire was a Production IG one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the only thing that stood out is, Batman saves Crispus, he puts him on the roof, and then Crispus is running down the stairs to get back to the fight after Ramirez gets caught, and he jumps what appears to be 3 stories to the ground and just lands with no problem. And we were like, no, my
legs!
Yeah, these try and keep it pretty grounded as far as crazy anime stuff, but no, that dude just jumped 30 feet down and didn't shatter his femurs.
Mm-hmm.
But it passes real quick. If you blink, you miss it.
Yeah, so I got a question, just kind of while we're talking about this particular segment, just because this is something that's come up especially in a lot of Batman media, but also in a lot of superhero media in general. What's your take on the sort of constant bringing up of just hey, fellow citizen, what do you think of vigilantes? Oh, I don't like them one bit. I think they should let the police do their job. Oh, I don't know. I think they're doing something the police can't. It's just every single fucking time we get one of these goddamn movies, whether it's Batman, whether it's Punisher, whether it's Spider-Man, there's always somebody who does this fucking shit. I'm starting to get so sick of it.
I think it depends on how it's handled, because it's hard to do it in actual superhero media, because we as the audience know more than the people having the discussion,
Mm-hmm.
we think we know, like, the hero's motives. Like, you know, to go back to The Dark Knight, like, there's the whole dinner party scene where Bruce Wayne is having dinner with Harvey Dent, and they talk about it, and, you know, Bruce Wayne kind of takes the position of, oh, Batman is a vigilante, and like, we know, oh, haha, he's just taking the piss because he is Batman. But I think it's probably played out because I don't think writers take it far enough or take it too far. Like, I think that's how we ended up with Batman v Superman, where, you know, in Man of Steel, it was like, oh, who cares? This, you know, this guy's a superhero. And then they walk it back in Batman v Superman, like, this guy could blow up the earth. What gives him the right? It's one of those things that I think if you aren't in superhero media going to actually show, like, the negative effects of vigilante justice, because I think, not to get too heavy, but, like, when you have dudes that are, like, strapping on their AR-15s walking around in, like, flooded streets after a hurricane calling themselves vigilantes, like, that's not cool. Like, that's shitty because I don't know those people's motivations and I don't trust them to make decisions. If if Superman or Batman existed in real life, you know, I might trust a guy with superpowers who, as far as I've seen, hasn't, like, vaporized criminals or what.
From what I understand, Seattle kind of has a Batman, because from what I know, and I read all this in a Tumblr post, so fucking grain of salt the size of your head.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, apparently in Washington, there's still a law on the books where...
I think it has to deal with, like, citizens' arrests and things like that.
It's that citizens can settle their differences in a fist fight and police can't intervene.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, you have people in, like, Batman-esque suits, but they carry, like, you know, tasers and mace and what's the old group, was it the Guardian Angels that used to ride the train cars to beat up, like, perverts and whatnot? It's a complicated subject, because yeah, like, the optimistic part of me is like, yeah, sure, like, of course we need real heroes, and because they're just taking it a step beyond, like, oh, you know, you see somebody getting yelled at in a store and you step in between or whatever. But then, like, there's also you know, the worst case scenarios, what if these are just a bunch of, like, power hungry, like, dorks who, like, couldn't get a job as a cop or a security guard, and they just want an excuse to, you know, make their dick feel big.
Yeah, like, you're worried about whether you're gonna get a Justice League or you're gonna get, like, Watchmen.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said, not to get too, like, dark deep down, but yeah, that's even why, like, nowadays especially, you know, if someone is like, yeah, I don't really trust cops, I'm like, yeah, I get it, because, like, you don't know, it's not like there's a hive mind, you don't know what this person's motivations were for putting on their costume, quote unquote. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a super good point worth, like, discussing. And, like, basically, to just sum it all up, I think it's really lazy now when that's just thrown in there. Like, even if it is part of, like you said, Spider-Man, like, the latest Spider-Man movie did it without even bringing up, like, J. Jonah Jameson, and it does come off kind of cheap, because it's usually just said, like, the two sides of the argument was like, well, I like vigilantes, well, I don't. It's black and white. When I think in reality it is a super, super complex thing.
Yeah, and not to give South Park too much credit, but I remember when they did their parody of, like, Batman movies, which I'm not even going to say Cartman's superhero persona name because it's terrible.
It's what that whole new video game is based on. Woohoo! It
sure is. But they do a version of that scene that cracked me up, and in fact, thinking about it now, on some level, still kind of cracks me up, where Cartman's trying to play it all cool, just like, personally, I think he's a vigilante, and it shouldn't be blah, 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 blah. And then, like, one of his friends is just like, yeah, plus dressing up like a superhero and going out at night is fucking stupid. And he's just like, that's not stupid, you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said, not to give South Park too much credit, I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's another thing. Like otherwise, I don't really like South Park either. Not my cup of tea anymore.
I used to, just whatever. So, moving on, because we're only 2 segments into this movie at this point. The next one is Field Test, which, as we discussed, is where the anime Batman outfit comes from, because it's a very stylized version of the Batman outfit, and is the one that's actually used in the intro to this movie. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I think this one might actually be my favorite because it's pretty much got equal parts Batman and Bruce Wayne, but it shows the great dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Batman as different people. And this is really, Kevin Conroy does a great job because Bruce Wayne and Batman are totally different, like inflections and performances and whatnot.
Yeah, like, it's kind of like what we were talking about before we started watching it, where it's just like, Bruce is such a douche.
Oh yeah, because the whole thing is well, first of all, he talks to Lucius, who gives him a prototype. Seems like some kind of gyroscopic.
It's like an electromagnet or something.
Yeah, electromagnetic thing, but it's meant to deflect like bullets, and it does.
Yeah, it deflects bullets if it detects a sound over a certain decibel level, so it's only going to work for like small arms fire.
Yeah, but the whole first half is Bruce Wayne takes the device with him and then goes and enters a charity golf tournament with this land developer guy who just looks like, the most generic, like slimy businessman. And he mentions, first of all, he opens with saying something like, Ronald, I really admire a man who promises to rebuild a neighborhood, and the first thing he does is put in a golf course.
Yeah, the entire thing about this guy is that he is a land developer, and he's gentrifying this neighborhood, basically.
Oh yeah, and Bruce also mentions that an activist was actually murdered, and she just happened to be like the chief person organizing protesting of this redevelopment of this land.
Yeah, and just to kind of complete the circle of like scumbag, it should be noted that the center that he opens up at the beginning of that scene is named after her.
Oh, wow. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
Because this comes back up again later when we learned out who actually murdered the activist. But yeah, there's a whole scene where Bruce misses like a 5-foot putt and the guy busts his balls over it. And then he activates his little bullet deflector and makes the guy throw his club. And so while he's distracted, he actually swipes his PDA for use later. But yeah, the guy like his club goes sailing out of his hands into like a tree, and he just looks like a total jackass.
It's fucking hilarious. So that's kind of like the major sort of like plot section of this short. The next part of it is all about him using this device sort of like while he's out on patrol. And what he uses it on is in sort of like a confrontation, because as we had seen in the last segment, the fucking Maroni and the Russian are just at each other's throats, and it's causing serious harm to like the rest of the city.
Yeah, people are getting caught in the crossfire, basically.
Yeah, so he sort of engineers a confrontation between the two of them, because like I don't know if you caught it, but he was remote controlling Maroni's boat to
he
crash
just
into the Russians.
Slams it right into him.
Yeah, so they start getting all like, "Oh, that's the Russian! Got him!" Doing the Nixon thing again. God damn it! So then he swoops in, and like they're all like, "Oh fuck, it's the Batman!" So of course they start shooting at him, and this thing's deflecting bullets left and right, and they're just like, "Oh fuck, he's bulletproof!"
Yeah, adding this like element of fear, like, "Oh my god, we can't even shoot this guy."
Yeah, so he takes out all the guys, and he grabs Maroni and the Russian, and he's just like, "Listen," and he's got them both by the throat, and he's just like, "Look, I ain't got nothing on either of you right now, but if you keep this fucking shit up, I'm gonna have to bust your fucking skulls in. So you stay in your territory, okay?"
I thought that was pretty smart too, because like we know they're in the Dark Knight movie, but like Batman is also playing it smart. Like even if I drag these guys in, you don't have anything on them, so it's not like you're gonna take them off the street.
Basically, and that kind of plays into the fact that they're sort of playing nice in the Dark Knight,
yeah.
where they're like holding their fucking AA meetings in
yeah,
like a meat freezer. So then they're just like, "Yeah, okay. But then, suddenly, one of the Russians guys gets a gun, and it was actually one of Maroni's guys shoots at Batman, and it deflects the bullet into one of the Russians guys. And the Russian's just like, oh, you break him, you bought him. God damn it.
Yeah, he says...
Like, you break him, you bought him.
Yeah, which is, like, horrifying for this poor dude that just got shot, because his boss just...
Poor Ken Masters.
Yeah, he does look like Kid Masters. But he gets hit in the shoulder and, like, dude's bleeding out, like, probably hit an artery. So Batman, like, visibly is shaken. Like, I think that's why the Russian, like, kind of gave him a quip because he saw Batman's facade crack. And so Batman rushes this guy to the hospital because, like, oh my god, it would be my fault if this dude died.
Yeah, because if you're like us... If you're like me and Jeremy, then you grew up with the Batman who doesn't like the idea of being the reason why people get shot. Instead of, being the one who's pulling the trigger, Batman v Superman.
We know about the Detective Comics where he kills people all the time, so just don't stop right there.
There's certain degrees of leeway I'm willing to give certain versions of Batman. Like, he does straight up try to kill KG Beast in the comics. Like, they write it out later on where it's just like, oh, KG Beast is fine, he got out of there. But just like, no, he shut him underground with no food or water with the intent to leave him to die.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the same logic you even use in Batman Begins, where he tells Ra's al Ghul, it's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you. And it's like, You killed him.
Yeah, there's a certain degree of leeway I'm willing to give where it's just like, Ra's al Ghul probably could have saved himself.
Yeah.
But he chose to go to his own death.
Yeah. And a lot of Batman media is better with that than others. Like, the ones where press X to snap this guy's clavicle. It's like, yeah, Batman didn't kill this dude, but he also left him, severely injured in the middle of the cold night somewhere. So, like, dude could have, if you really want to, like, apply logic to it, like, dude probably died from shock and exposure, but Batman didn't kill him.
I would like to think that after Batman fucking breaks a dude's legs, on his way out, he probably calls 911.
Yeah. I actually like that logic too. Like, he's got a little OnStar button that that alerts the paramedics.
It's the button for the bat phone at Gordon's office.
Gordon just gets sick of it someday. I broke his legs, Gordon. You would send an ambulance. Batman, look, I appreciate your help. Hold on, I'm gonna punch this guy in the face. Damn it. He's only 2 blocks away. You can save a trip.
I left him right next to a Starbucks for you. Get yourself something nice. I already paid for it.
So the crux of this one is he gets the guy to the hospital and he gives the bullet deflector back to Lucius because he tells him it works, but too well. He said, I'm going to risk my life, but nobody else's. Like, they haven't signed up for that, but I have. Which, yeah, that could be really scary, because, I mean, Batman gets into situations where, there's people firing guns all over the place, and, like, what if that thing deflected it into a crowd?
Yeah, no kidding. So, next segment is what starts sort of like the latter half of this story, and I completely fucking forget what this one was called, but it's all about
In Darkness Dwells.
Oh, yeah. Now, something we didn't mention with the second part is that if you watch Batman Begins, you know that Arkham Asylum is located in the Narrows, and that the Narrows were super fucked by Scarecrow's fear gas, and Scarecrow fucked off and wasn't heard from again. In part 2, there's a line of dialogue that reveals that now all of the Narrows is Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, literally an Arkham City-like scenario here.
Yeah, and it looks super evil. We're talking, like, there's impossible, like, building geometry going on. There's towers sticking out of towers. It's all very kind of cool to look at, but at the same time, you're just like...
It makes no sense logically.
And it's just like, wait, so all of it is the asylum now?
And we get some more of that, where this is the one where it starts in a cathedral, And witnesses say that something grabbed the cardinal and,
A big monster.
yeah, large lizard-like monster dragged him into the sewers. The crypts below the cathedral.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a sec. But if you're a regular fan of Batman media, you kind of have an idea of where this is going, because this is one of the segments where we get one of the classic Batman villains. We get Killer Croc.
It's Killer Croc.
It's Killer Croc, and he's got fuck. What was it?
Oh,
God damn it.
yeah,
It's
not
he
written
has a
down.
skin disease.
Yeah, they're talking to Batman over the radio, because Batman...
It's Gordon, and he can't fucking read it either.
And then Batman just says it. It's like, yeah, of course, smart ass. But, yeah, Batman basically, he tells Gordon and his guys, like, I'll go check it out, just, give me radio support. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, and the radio I'm giving you is encrypted with quantum
Oh, yeah.
cryptology.
Like, we've already established that Batman trusts Gordon. That line kind of seemed out of place. He's like, and don't even bother to track me because I put my Mary Sue technology in it to where it'll only work for me.
Quantum cryptology.
Yeah. So yeah, and then Batman goes down into like the sewer/crypts, cause like there's poo water everywhere, but also just like open coffins and like corpses floating around.
Okay, so what it is, as Gordon explained it, they are a pneumatic tube system
Oh yeah.
to transport corpses between cemeteries. So if you've ever been to like the bank and they've got those like tubes that like you put your check into
Yeah.
that you want to deposit, and you like close it up in the capsule and it just goes shoop.
That thing.
It's that, but for dead people.
Except for your belovedly passed loved ones. But yeah, there are just a bunch of like body parts hanging out in the water where I guess the system is broken down. But yeah, it's impossible geometry because like they come out these huge like the fugitive pipes and this basically like a French, what is it called? Crypt or whatever, but all those catacombs and whatnot under
as above so below stuff.
Yeah, underneath this, supposedly American city. That has this crazy, impossible Gothic architecture.
Yeah, so then Killer Croc appears, and as is described to us, he was fucked up on fear toxin by Scarecrow.
Yeah.
To work on his, wouldn't you know it, fear of bats.
Yeah.
Because of course.
And we get kind of like 2 sentences of backstory from a homeless guy Batman talks to, and he's like, "Oh, he was born a freak. And his mom dumped him down here, and all the chemicals fucked him up real bad, too." But then they show him, and I get the design they were probably going for was, like, if he was brought into the Nolan movies, like, he probably would look more like a person with, like, a skin disorder or, like, elephantitis, or I don't know if the disease they said is real or not.
I think it is.
He kind of looks like a big rat man with, just made out of scabs.
Yeah, I think a giant scab is the way that you described it.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, he filed his teeth down. Like, oh, so they're all pointy. It's like, oh, he's kind of got like a weird, like rat jaw. And I don't really like the design. He's also not very big at all. Like, he's not even any bigger than Batman.
And I mean, like you said, that's kind of a more trying to fit him into the Nolanverse thing. Like, we can't go full Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, where he's
we
like
can't.
12 feet tall and obviously a mutant. But I mean, I guess I was just thinking like they made Bane super huge and buff. But anyway, it's okay. Killer Croc kind of comes in, Batman fights him, and then he leaves.
Yeah, the main reason that he's there is to get Batman all fucked up on fear toxin, because as Batman describes it, he's got Crane's fear toxin boiling in his veins. So he is all fucked up, and when he bites Batman, he transfers that to him, and we get some kind of really cool sort of like psychedelic stuff going on. Like Croc's mouth opens and another Croc head pops out, and like just sheds that one. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I do like how Batman tries to, like, he's logicking his way out of it. Like, he knows he's tripping on the fear toxin, but he's also like, I'm gonna keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that kind of makes sense because he's been fucked up on fear toxin already
Yeah.
in this continuity.
He's obviously which that's part of the next short is we learn that Bruce is very adept to ignoring like the primal senses of pain in his body.
So he gets to what is essentially Scarecrow's congregation. He's got, like, the priest down there. He's about to execute him. There's all these people chanting, "Death, death, death." Scarecrow's got a fucking throne.
Do they ever talk about what's the beef Scarecrow has with this, like, Catholic dude? Like, just
Okay.
nothing?
So that is brought up. It's actually explained by Scarecrow. What Scarecrow is trying to do is he's trying to organize all of, like, the lowest people of the city as his own personal army.
And he's making an example of him as like a false leader.
Yeah, because the priest is trying to help these people, and Scarecrow's just like, "Oh, but the Scarecrow doesn't want them to be saved!"
Yeah, and Scarecrow's got the whole, the Legion voice, the scary voice, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I really like this design of Scarecrow. So, real quick, I do want to mention this movie did get a novelization that was meant to be more set between the two Dark Knight movies.
Yeah, I saw it in the, what is it, just looking on the Wikipedia article. Yeah, it did have a novelization. Yeah, interesting.
Which I would imagine helps with tying all the stories together a little bit easier, but from what I understand, in this movie, because it was given to an anime studio, and this was one of the Madhouse shorts.
Yes.
And you can tell because it's a very Redline.
Oh yeah, it looks really good. Like nice,
Yeah.
very heavy black shading, bright primary colors, while still looking real like gothic with the greens. It looks really good.
Yeah, so they went all out on their Scarecrow design, and for what it's worth, it's a really cool design. I like the mask, I like the hat, that one bright yellow eye that you can see, the fact that he's got like the two fake arms coming off his shoulders. He's got fucking sides. It's nuts.
And under like the fear toxin, like the maggots are crawling out of the sides of the mask, and it looks really cool.
Now in the novelization, the way that they describe him, he's just wearing the exact same outfit that he has in Batman Begins.
Yeah, well.
Which, I don't necessarily hate that outfit. I really like the burlap mask idea.
It's just it wouldn't play well in this like heavily stylized animation.
So Batman swoops in, he's just like, "Guess what, Scarecrow? Bye." And he grabs the priest and he fucks off, and like everybody's just like, "Oh no, get him, and it's like, "Oh fuck, shit, he's getting away. Oh god, there's water pouring in. Oh no, oh no."
Yeah, Batman also gets does he get shot? I think he does. This is the one where at the very end he gets hurt in the side real bad.
I can't remember if he gets shot or if it's from his battle with Croc.
Yeah, it might be that. But yeah, he rescues the Cardinal. He like Gordon's helicopter literally drops down and he rescues the Cardinal. And Gordon's like, "Hey Batman, you need some help there?" Because he's just like bleeding everywhere, and he's like, "No, I'm good."
Batman's just like, "Maybe next time," and he runs off all cool. And then the next short starts off, and he's stumbling along, bleeding, and he's not doing so well. And just like, "Oh, maybe you should have taken that ride."
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. He's hurt, but then one of the Scarecrow's followers shoots him at the beginning of the next short because they flow just straight into each other.
Yeah. So one of Scarecrow's followers, who's fucked up on fear toxin, is super freaked out by Batman. It's just firing wildly at him.
Yeah, which Batman's trying to help him because he knows he's messed up real bad.
Yeah. Now most of this short is actually flashback because this is more in line with sort of like the Animatrix style thing where it's just like, oh, here's the history of like these events where we meet up with one of the people that Bruce met on his travels to become Batman.
Yeah, this is before he ended up in the
League of Shadows.
Yeah, because he's did they even say where he is?
He's in sort of like it would have to be like Middle East, Northern Africa kind of area.
Because I was about to say, because the Doctor seems to have kind of a North African accent, but Bruce has volunteered to help with a relief effort, and like the doctor he's with is just performing open surgery on this poor dude without anesthesia.
Because they probably don't have, like, that's kind of one of the unfortunate truths of, like, a lot of those relief efforts. It's just like they don't have enough.
No, you don't have, I'm sure limited supplies, like you have to pick and choose, like, who gets morphine.
Like, can we afford to strap this guy down and skip the anesthesia? Is his shit not quite as bad as the other dudes? And it's just like, yeah, I guess so. Let's fucking open him up.
But speaking of which, this is another Studio 4C one, and this one looks, for the most part, looks really, really good. About the only character that doesn't look that hot is whoever, I guess, this, like, younger Bruce Wayne, because they give him this weird, like, shading on his lips and, like, a trashy, like, goatee, and he just looks really, like, blank-eyed. But all the other characters actually look really good.
So the entire thing with this is that Bruce is looking to train with some monks, spiritualists, people who it's the kind of people who walk over hot coals.
Yeah, it's kind of, they don't go into a lot of detail, and, like, I'll be perfectly honest, by the end of it, I'm kind of like, this is kind of your, like, oh, our white dude protagonist is seeking out, like, these exotic magical foreigners who are going to teach him a thing, and it's not that bad, but it's just came across as kind of tropey.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, if you're looking for someone to, like, teach you how to, like, be in one place while also, like, being miles away to avoid, in order to, like, endure pain, you could do worse.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like the discussion around, who was it, the Ancient One in the Marvel's Doctor Strange movie. It was like, oh, well, I mean, do you make it kind of like the original, where it was kind of this, like, ancient Chinese stereotype, or, you cast, her name escapes me at the moment, but you cast, she's a white British lady, but still make it kind of like this otherworldly thing. And it's like, I can kind of see both arguments. But yeah, that's just a small part of this. It's like I said, they don't define it at all, so it's real vague. The only thing you really have to go on is the accents kind of switch from, like we said, North African to Indian, so you kind of assume, oh, he's gone somewhere else. But yeah, he's looking for this woman who can teach him this, like, mind over matter thing, and all these people are telling him, like, they don't want to train you, like, you're a foreigner, and also they don't think you're being honest with them of why you want this training. And so then, this woman finds him and just kind of tells him her story, and all this crazy stuff, like standing on hot coals and needles and all this stuff, and basically being able to shut down that part of your brain that is connected to the physical part of your body and still be able to think just as well.
Yeah, the way that they explain it is that she learned all of this stuff despite being a woman, because she approached them under false pretenses where she was pretending to be a boy, and they were just like, oh, well, we'll train her until she fails inevitably, but then she didn't fail, and they're just like, God damn it. We gave her all of our secrets.
She says that, they saw through her disguise, but they kept her around so they could basically make fun of her and torture her emotionally.
Yeah, and then they exposed her, and she got kicked out of her house, and she's a pariah.
And she's been living alone on the outskirts this whole time. She's an adult now. That was when she was, what'd she say, like 9 or 10? I mean,
she was but a child.
Rough stuff, yeah. But a wee bab.
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
So the short ends when these hooligans from town come up to her house and are just like, oh, you're teaching this white dude all of our secrets. And she's just like, can you guys all just kind of, like, fuck off?
Yeah, she says, you're embarrassing yourselves. Like, what would your mother think if she saw you behaving this way?
Yeah, and then, like, they start threatening her, but then Bruce comes out and he's just like, sup fuckers, and he beats them all up. He punches one dude so hard that dude pukes. Just all over the place. It's great.
And right before that, the dude breaks a 2x4 over his head, Which,
Yeah.
going back to like the vague kind of mysticism training, like all she's teaching him is how to withstand pain. Like he still might have a cracked skull when he comes down from all this.
Yeah, I'm imagining that one scene from, oh god, what was it? The World's End, where it's Gary King trying to prove that he's human and he bashes his head against the wall. He's just like, and then like he's just like, see, I'm human. And then like a second passes by, he's like, ah!
Yeah. So then he beats up all these guys, and then Cassandra, basically doesn't kick him out, but she's like, it's time for you to leave. You've learned all you can. And then she basically tells him that his pain, like his emotional, like pain, the death of his parents that he carries deep down inside, that's beyond her. It's like, you've learned everything you can from me, but I can't help you with that.
Yeah, it's beyond her. It's beyond anyone. He's beyond help at this point. And we should mention that through all of this, we've also been getting flashes of like present day where he's stumbling through the sewers, bleeding out.
Yeah, he's cauterized his wound. He's fallen down a shaft. He ends up in a
like a refuse grate is kind of what it was. It's a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, like those big. I guess it's those big grates that are like in the middle of some roads in the alleys, about 15 feet down, and he thinks about how he's going to climb out of there, and all of a sudden he starts finding like guns that have
Just
like
all of these guns
obviously have probably been like used in deals or shot somebody, and the bad guy thing, you just toss it down the sewer. But yeah,
which we saw earlier in Field Test.
Yeah, we did see the guy he brought to the hospital had a gun, and he tossed it down the sewer instead of giving it to giving it to Batman. And so now he's got like an arm full of like a dozen guns, and he's like emotionally distraught because I guess he's probably thinking about like all of these people I've saved, but like all of these guns have probably been used to murder someone. And
he's also probably thinking just like, oh, my parents.
Yeah, also, mommy got shot with this gun.
Martha!
And then, what name did you say? Then Alfred shows up in the Batmobile and yanks the grate off this thing and just peers down in there with a flashlight.
He's like, sir, give me your hand. And Batman's like holding all these fucking guns. He's just like, why can't I hold all these guns?
Yeah, I can't. Guns. But yeah, we kind of, you pointed out like, okay, Alfred just hopped out of the Batmobile, like it's not broad daylight, but like...
But it's just like the middle of the street.
Yeah.
You gotta think there's somebody who's watching this happen. He's just like, is that Bruce Wayne's butler? What's Bruce Wayne's butler doing in the Batmobile?
And then we were kind of like...
Is Bruce Wayne's butler Batman?
Does Alfred have any kind of outside life? Would anyone even recognize him?
Oh, poor Alfred.
I guess we assume they eventually talked it out and he helped Batman up and gave him a big hug.
Yeah, as Alfred is wont to do. So then the next segment starts with a flashback of Bruce's parents getting murdered because we can't get through a fucking Batman movie without seeing Bruce Wayne's parents get fucking murdered.
This is the last one, and this is also a madhouse, and this one, looks amazing.
Oh,
like,
it looks
completely different from the other madhouse one, but still, like, you can tell it's them as a studio. Oh, you can see the Redline DNA. Yeah, and it's real. There's a lot of slow motion that just always amazes me when it's done really well in animation, and chef's kiss, it's very good.
This one is probably my favorite, and this one is called Deadshot, so obviously the bad guy in it is Will Smith.
Yes. Although he's looking a little pale in this version.
Okay, I told myself while we were watching this I can't make that joke because Deadshot wasn't black until Will Smith played him.
Right. And I mean, I haven't even seen that movie. I just know it's Will Smith and he's Deadshot.
It's on the Vudu, so you could watch it if you wanted to.
I don't know. Maybe we'll save that for something else.
I've got the theatrical and the extended cuts.
Oh.
The extended cut still doesn't have a whole lot of Joker, and that's still hilarious. Anyways, so this all it starts off with like Batman or like Bruce Wayne and Alfred discussing the guns that they found, and Bruce Wayne. This is actually a very kind of, I don't know if it's pragmatic, but it's a very sort of like grounded attitude towards guns that Bruce has in this.
Yeah.
It's not like other Batman media, like fucking Dark Knight Returns level stuff where it's just like, this is the weapon of the enemy. I'm doing it again. It's like, this is the weapon of the enemy. Duh.
I mean, even though, like, he does everything but in those versions.
This Bruce Wayne, his entire attitude is just like, I'd never use one of these, but I can absolutely understand the allure of a gun. It's basically like having the power of God.
Yeah, that's a really good line. And it also kind of like, you know, it makes it a little bit more understandable, like, Batman, this version of Batman, like, he's not going to tell the cops not to use guns or defend themselves. But it is just a very personal thing because, like, yeah, his entire life was destroyed by a dude with a gun.
Yeah, that one guy from the Doom movie. He really liked the word shit. Now, this whole discussion that he's having with Alfred is intercut with scenes of Deadshot on a Ferris wheel assassinating a guy.
Yeah, like the Ferris wheel's moving, isn't it?
Yes, it's moving, and there's fireworks popping off, and when he shoots the guy, he also takes out the stem of a champagne glass.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, God, a miles away shot, like, you know, crazy video game bullet time. We see the bullet go from the gun through the penthouse window, through the champagne glass, and straight through the center of the guy's forehead.
Standard Deadshot bullshit.
Oh yeah, and he kisses his rifle and ejects the monogram casing and leaves it right there, and he's definitely jerking himself off.
And it's just like, I made the comment because he later uses like one of those like cocktail swords, the ones that like they put the olives on to like kill a wasp, and I'm just like, God damn, Deadpool, why are you so extra?
Yeah, that's some bullseye crap. But yeah, we get a conversation between him and his boss, I guess, who's hired him to put out these hits. And he's just standard like, oh, you know, here's your next target. I want you to kill, James Gordon in Gotham. And he's like, oh, that sounds so boring. Just another cop kill. And then is this before or after? Oh yeah, it's after this. Batman goes back to Crispus and gives him the PDA he stole in the field test short.
Yeah, the blueberry.
Yeah, I called it a blueberry because it went from looking like some busted ass Nokia in the first short to, some kind of like PDA with a big screen and a tiny keyboard like a BlackBerry. But I said I called it a blueberry and totally ruined any credibility I had. But then they find encrypted emails that the douchey real estate development guy has hired Deadshot.
Or had hired Deadshot previously.
Yeah, had hired him. And Deadshot was the one who murdered the activist whom the dude named the center after. So, like, we get just come full circle of how much of a monster that guy was. And apparently got away with it mostly. Like, the PDA Bruce stole, like, leads them to figuring out, like, who Deadshot's next target is. But yeah, like, the land developer guy, like, basically gets away with all of it.
Oh, no, they actually mention at the end that they arrested him as well, and that if they're convicted, they get the death penalty.
Oh, wow.
So add that to Batman's kill list.
I was about to say, that's a whole other pragmatic conversation. If Batman arrests someone who's convicted and sentenced to death, is that on his conscience? But yeah, anyway, so they know that Deadshot's going after Gordon next.
They put Gordon in like this bulletproof car. They give him a helmet that he takes off immediately.
Mostly bulletproof.
Yeah, he's going through this PDA, and it's just like, oh, dude, he'll probably shoot from this moving train because of course he fucking will.
Yeah, and Batman's all like, how's the satellite imagery, Alfred? And he's like, it looks googly.
I could see your pointy ears.
Yeah.
And so Batman hops on the train, just like, oh, where's he gonna fire from? And then Alfred's just like, oh my god, there's a train coming in the opposite direction, and that's the one that Deadshot's on. So then Deadshot's got his fucking rifle out. He's just like, oh, time to kill me, Lieutenant. And he fires, and Batman punches the bullet out of the air.
Yeah, I feel like I almost missed that watching it, but no, Batman uses like his spiky Kevlar gauntlets and literally intercepts the bullet with his fist and punches it out of the air.
So then he goes after Deadshot, and Deadshot's like, "Ha! Gordon was never actually my target. Time to make my employer very happy." Revealing that he was actually contracted to kill Batman.
Yeah. And he pulls some fancy moves, and I think he tags Batman in the arm, and he's all like hanging limp and bleeding, and you're like, oh no, our hero.
And Deadshot's is like, "No one's ever tried to dodge my bullet by running into it, ha ha ha." And he looks down, and Batman's not there anymore, and just like, "Oh, looks like I've defeated the Batman." And then suddenly Batman swoops in, and he's just like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah, and he's like, this is one of the gorgeous slow motion shots where Batman is arcing over Deadshot, and he's firing, he's making the big mistake of not firing where he's gonna be, and Batman slices his goofy little gun arm off and just grabs him by the throat. And God, this is hard to describe. This is very visual, but he's holding Deadshot on the edge of the train towards the wall, and there's architecture that's like an upside down L piece.
They're kind of like support beams.
Yeah, and he holds Deadshot's head just enough to where it clips his mask and tears it off, and his head is coming like millimeters from hitting one of these things going full speed on this train, and Deadshot's just like obviously pissing his drawers. It's
very classic Batman interrogation sort of thing.
It's very well conveyed in the animation too. Like,
it's probably one of my favorite examples of that. Like, you always get Batman just like, "Oh, I'm gonna crush your skull with my boot, or I'm gonna throw you off this roof." Not this shit.
No, Batman is pissed at this point. But yeah, it's really good. Like, this is, this will come into play later, but this is one of my favorite sequences for sure.
Yeah. So then, like, there's a news story about how, like, oh, Deadshot was arrested, and so was the real estate guy. Here's all the people that he's killed. One of them's, like, the previous mayor. Which...
Oh, yeah, this is after, Deadshot spills all the beans. He said the Russians hired him to kill Batman. And, and is all, he's melting. He's like, "I was just doing my job, man. It wasn't anything personal." And so Batman, like, yanks him back onto the train, and in another, like, great slow motion, just punches the shit out of him.
It's good shit. And then it's just like, that's more or less where it ends. Batman looks out, or Bruce Wayne looks out the window, bat signals in the sky, and then we get credits roll.
Yeah, he relates to Alfred how passing through the train tunnel reminded him so much of going through the alley with his parents where they died. And he's kind of bummed out, even though, like, he caught the guy.
It's just like, I think the way that he describes it is that he's been trying to stop those two bullets his entire life, which is a really good way of, like, kind of explaining his whole pathos.
Yep. And, Alfred says, that's fine. Like, it's okay to be discouraged, but also, like, you're serving a higher purpose, Master Bruce. And, the last shot is he looks up out of the window and sees the bat signal in the air.
Yep, and then that's the end. So we went a lot into sort of like what we liked and what we didn't like about this movie, so I think we can sort of like truncate this a little bit by just kind of like going over anything that we feel is sort of left over from that.
About the only thing I didn't like was, some of the character designs are kind of rough. I didn't like how Killer Croc looked at all. There's a couple of parts where if you're not paying super close attention in between, like, all the action, you might lose the thread. And I would say if you hadn't reminded me that they're all connected with certain things, like by the time you get to Deadshot, you remember, oh, the activist got killed. It might take a viewing or two to remember that.
Yeah, that's how it was for me.
And I'm not just saying that because, like, I've asked, like, 3 or 4 times, like, did they ever explain that? Yes, they did, Jeremy. Let me recant it for you. But there's really, the movie's not that long, but it doesn't feel like it. That's pretty much the only problem I had with it. Everything Yeah, we've talked about everything we liked. I think my favorite short is still a Field Test, like as a whole. But yeah, Deadshot definitely has my favorite sequences, just because they're beautiful. It really is worth watching this, even if there's a couple of little bumps in a quality of animation, just to see some of this very fluid, doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, all of the shorts are just long enough.
Yeah, I would say if there's anything that I didn't really like, I'm gonna focus mainly on like Batman himself. The actual designs of how Batman looks from short to short obviously vary because they're done by different studios. I would say my least favorite design is probably from Have I Got a Story for You? Not just because he's a chicken nugget with arms and legs, but also because he's just wearing like a body glove.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like, like a Batman animated, like, superhero outfit. It just kind of looks like a weird, like, Halloween unitard.
Yeah, and he's got like a sort of a similar outfit in Working Through Pain, I think was part 5.
Yeah,
But that one, because of how that particular sequence is animated, that one looks a little better, and also we don't even see the Batsuit in that one very often.
Yeah, just when he's going through the sewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I already said how I don't like how Bruce Wayne looks in that one either. He looks really douchey.
Yeah, there's also the design in Crossfire so the Batman design in Crossfire has this aesthetic about it that's going to come up later when we get to the Flashpoint movie, where everyone in Flashpoint is super ugly.
Yeah, is that also when they started, like, also everyone is wearing, like, 14 layers of armor on their suits?
Not so much, but kind of.
Yeah,
you might be thinking more along the lines of like Justice League Doom, but Flashpoint,
yeah, I think that is what I'm thinking of.
Flashpoint had this really weird aesthetic to it where like everybody had super like meaty faces and like really thick necks.
Oh yeah.
And it's not an aesthetic I'm super fond of, and that's kind of what we had with the Batman design in Crossfire. But again, in Crossfire, we focused a lot more on the detectives than we did on Batman, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's almost because we don't see it that much, it's kind of an interesting contrast, because here's all these like normal looking people with these, different body types, and then there's this really weird, dude in a bat armor suit.
Mm-hmm. I would say, as much as I like the style of In Darkness Dwells, I think was what you said it was, part 4.
Is that the one? Oh yeah, the one with Scarecrow and Croc.
Yeah, as much as I liked the style of that, I felt like if it had gone on longer, it probably would have overstayed its welcome, because there's a certain point in that one specifically where like I just start thinking, man, Batman's got kind of a chubby face, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He got chubby little cheeks.
And they also do lots of weird stuff. Like he has like a mechanical like rebreather that goes over his mouth.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It just also looks kind of weird, because then it's like, especially in animated versions of Batman, you're like, okay, is his costume supposed to be cloth, or is it armor? Because then in like the very next short, we see, oh, it's just cloth because he tears open a little bit of it to cauterize a bullet wound. And that's probably nitpicking, but it's also like, some stuff you kind of want to be logically consistent.
Yeah. Then, of course, Field Test had the really sort of stylized Batsuit that I still really like the way that looks, with like the high collar and the sort of brow ridge that also goes into sort of like the bridge of the nose.
Yeah, it does look really cool.
Yeah, totally, as much as it...
Yeah, totally not Femto-like at all.
Yeah, just even considering that, it's
it looks super awesome.
But I would have to say that my favorite Batman design is probably going to be going to how he looks in Deadshot, because I love how his eyes look in that, where he's got sort of like the eyepiece over it, but you can also kind of see like, oh, that's where his iris is, that's where his pupil is.
Yeah.
And he looks so imposing in that one.
Yeah, it's one of the things that works. Actually, it wasn't until Spider-Man Homecoming that they actually bothered to animate that part of his face, but it's something I love in animated incarnations of Batman, is that they have they can cover his whole eyes and still have him emote through the mask or the fabric or whatever, and it looks cool. And none of the live action ones really tried that because, like, you kind of need to see the actor's eyes for him to emote. And, if you do the whole white over thing, it's because he's using bat vision or whatever.
Yeah, Dark Knight did that with, like, the sonar tech, and then Batman v Superman sort of does that when he's got the bat armor on.
Yeah, and they light up, and he's all, swinging his pee-pee around.
Okay, let's go with that. So,
well, you know what I mean. He makes this big scary suit because he's gonna fight Superman, and it's, I don't know. I don't like that movie for that reason.
It's not great.
Like, do you bleed? I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna tie this around your feet and swing you around, Superman. You big pussy.
I do actually really like that Superman-Batman fight, because the big thing that I always look for in, like, a Superman-Batman fight is, does Batman win? Because Batman should win in any Batman v Superman fight.
Yeah, because he's had time enough to plan.
Because he always has a plan, even if he hasn't had a lot of prep time. He's always got some sort of last-minute thing. He's always got kryptonite on him. Like, who would win in a fight between Batman and Superman if Batman doesn't have kryptonite? Batman would win, because Batman always has kryptonite.
Yeah, and he's also counting on, this version of Superman not to just, like, give him a lobotomy from a football field away. Because he knows he won't. But yeah, that's not going too far up subject, but yeah, that is, like, the best part of that movie, because you could just cut it out and it would be like a neat music video, which is kind of like all of Zack Snyder's filmography. It's like, just cut out the parts that work and are cool and make a music video, which is what he was good at.
Yeah, I mean, did you see that first trailer for Watchmen with the fucking Smashing Pumpkins song? Fucking
dude, like,
beautiful.
It's still, people, like, parodied that forever.
I fucking love that trailer.
It's really good.
And what's hilarious about that is that they use an alternate version of a song that was used in, God, what was it? Batman Forever?
I think it was the Batman and Robin soundtrack.
Oh, it might have been.
It was like a B-side of that song that only exists in that form on that soundtrack.
Yeah, the only fucking song I remember from Batman and Robin is the fucking R. Kelly slow jam about how Gotham City is the city of love.
Oh my god. Is
that
it
played over the credits?
I mean, at least Batman Forever had, what is it, Kiss from a Rose by is it Seal, not
Seal.
Train.
Kiss from a Rose.
That song's, I love that song.
Yeah.
that's also, like, my mom's favorite song. Like, it was on TV and it ended and it's like, oh, that's my song. It's like, yeah, this was Batman Forever. Remember that one?
There's a Korean barbecue place that Natalie and I have been to that's one of the songs that they have on loop, and it gets me every time.
That's wonderful.
Like, I'll have been sitting there, like, in the same, like, Korean barbecue sesh, and just like, are they playing Kiss from a Rose? That is Kiss from a Rose. And then, like, 10 minutes later, it's just like, are they playing Kiss from a Rose?
It comes back on. Yeah, Seal is legit. Like, God, what was that weird passion play? There was a Tyler Perry thing too. And, like, the only two good songs are Chris Daughtry sings "Bring Me to Life," and then Seal sings a partial a cappella version of "Mad World."
That sounds like it's beautiful, actually.
It is. You need to look that up. But yeah, Seal rocks.
So, anyways,
back to Batman.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of covers, like, what we liked, what we didn't like. We talked a lot about it as we were going on, just because each part is sort of like its own discrete film in and of itself.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really kind of get through one without talking about what you liked about that one in particular.
Yeah, but I think they do, especially if you go into it knowing that they are all do have story beats connected. Like, they really are. It's worth it to sit down and watch the entire thing start to finish.
Yeah.
And not skip around.
Yeah, like, if going into, like, sort of like what we didn't like, if there was something that I had to improve, it would probably be, like, emphasizing those a little bit more, because it seems like with each studio they really wanted to get in on like, oh, we need to have an action scene in here so that we can animate some like high octane Batman fist fight.
There are a couple that kind of suffer from that, like, oh, it's, story beat, bah, fight, bah, 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 but it's still interesting.
Yeah. So, God. Because our next segment is sell the movie. I think this is going to be kind of a tough one. I would definitely say Batman v Deadshot, though.
I agree. Like, I would say it's worth it for Field Test is my favorite short, but if I had to say one segment, it's the the last like 5 minutes of the movie on the train with Deadshot. That's really amazing. Like, even if you just you watch one thing, like look that up on YouTube or that clip like in a photo set.
Yeah, fucking pure unfiltered Batman.
And the good kind. The good kind, it's really great. It's a really fantastic sequence. So yeah, I just echo you, that sequence for sure, if I had to sell the movie to somebody.
Yeah. Now, how horny is it? And I want to say, just real quick, since this is anime, I think it would be safe to say that we start this off at a flat 7.
I kind of have to disagree, because we do have a very Bishonen Bruce Wayne in a Field Test, but then, like I said, they screw it up in Working Through Pain and like make him look super ugly. I don't think there's, like, as far as like, to be perfectly honest, like, I don't think there's any sexual content in this at all.
Ramirez does wear kind of a low-cut top in Crossfire.
Yeah, she does kind of, and like, I don't remember the camera like focusing on like her butt in her jeans or anything.
Well, it did in Darkness Dwells for a brief moment just before she slips and Gordon sends them off.
Yeah, that's right.
But I would definitely say we don't go full-on anime titty in this movie.
No, not at all.
But we have shades of anime titty.
Yeah, like, I think Ramirez, and then I think there's an anchor woman. Like, those are, like, the only lady characters, and they're all fully clothed.
There's a half-naked woman in Deadshot when they're sitting at the pool.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He's talking about she's wearing her bathing suit, and he looks at her ass as she's walking by. But, I mean, yeah, compared to the other movies we've seen, yeah, I would personally give it, like, a 2.
A 2?
Because okay, now I'm remembering how sexy that Bruce Wayne is in Field Test. And he's obviously meant to be like a heartthrob. I think I'd settle on a 3, but no higher from me. Because I guess I was focusing too much on the violence and whatnot.
It was some sexy violence. Wait, no, that's just that Castlevania pachinko.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Why is it always got to come back to Castlevania pachinko? Anyways, I would say, just kind of given your arguments, I would maybe put it at a 5, personally.
Yeah, I guess I'm so desensitized from years of anime titty that it's hard to stand out anymore.
This is definitely on the low end of anime titty, but I feel like it's got enough of a presence for me to give it at least a 5.
I've come a long way from watching Tenchi Muyo on Toonami and trying to figure out if those bathing suits were there originally or not. Especially compared to other things we've watched, this one's not that horny at all.
Yeah, not quite as high as Superman Doomsday, but definitely not as low as Justice League New Frontier.
I think we'll get there eventually, but nothing's beat Superman Doomsday so far.
I mean, we'll definitely get there eventually, because we haven't even reached like Killing Joke or Batman and Harley Quinn yet.
No, God, we mention those every time. It's gonna be like
because they're looming on the horizon.
It's our doomsday clock. Every episode is
our
another
Superman doomsday clock.
Ugh, and every episode is another minute ticking towards midnight. Oh boy.
Well, that's going to be it for us this week. I want to thank everybody for listening. You can find me on Twitter at sane_intolerant and on Tumblr at saneintolerant.tumblr.com.
You can find me on Twitter at GameBuddy, GameBuddy.
And our next movie is going to be... Well, this is a nice treat. Our next movie is going to be the animated Wonder Woman movie.
Okay.
Which-
I know I've never seen this one.
If I remember correctly, it's pretty good. I think... Okay, here's what I want us to do for next week. Have you seen the new Wonder Woman? The live action
Yes.
one? Okay.
My whole family sat down to watch it the other night. It was pretty good. I liked when they kept joking about Chris Pine's dick being useless.
That was pretty good. Now... I think a fun thing to do for this one, because for a while this was like the only Wonder Woman movie that was available. Between now and whenever we end up watching this, because we've unfortunately been kind of inconsistent about like when we watch these movies and like when these episodes come out.
Yeah, we kind of fluctuate between trying to build up a backlog and, I mean, life stuff happens.
Yeah, like I'm going to try real hard to get New Frontier out this week, but I don't necessarily think it's going to happen on Friday. It might be a little bit. Not that this will matter by the time you're listening to this, because by the time you're listening to this, that would be out anyway, and you know how that turned out.
We might just cut that part out. Because it's not going to make any sense.
No, I'm going to leave it in just because it doesn't make any sense. But between now and when we watch the animated Wonder Woman movie, I think it would be fun for each of us to rewatch live action Wonder Woman so that it's fresh in our mind, and then kind of use that as a point of comparison, because if I remember the animated Wonder Woman movie correctly, I like that one. I definitely think live action Wonder Woman was better.
Yeah, I was glad to see that I did end up liking that. I was kind of bummed out at the very end because they're like literally like gearing up like, oh, and next is Justice League. And I'm like, I still don't want to see it.
Natalie has told me that just early reviews for like the earliest cut of Justice League was that it was unwatchable. So I'm very excited.
I think because my dad still likes superhero movies. And so it's like the one thing I can like tell him all the stuff like that info, and he's just like, that's so disappointing.
I'm ready. I love that shit. Like, you're talking to the guy who owns fucking Jonah Hex on Blu-ray. Which, once we, look into Patreon stuff, is maybe another thing we might do as a bonus.
Oh boy.
Who
All
knows? Right. That movie is just fucking awful. I love it. All right.
Delicious.
So that's going to be it for us. I want to thank you guys for listening, and until next time, comics are dumb.
Comics are dumb.
Have a good night.